During the Middle English period, England experienced significant historical developments, including the establishment of the Norman and Angevin dynasties, internal power struggles among the monarchy, nobility, clergy, and populace, as well as numerous domestic and foreign conflicts. From a literary perspective, however, the broader movements of the era were more impactful than specific events. These included the rise and eventual decline of religious orders, the flourishing of chivalry and romance literature, which fostered greater empathy for women and the disadvantaged, the Crusades, and the gradual expansion of European perspectives leading to the intellectual revival known as the Renaissance. These social shifts were reflected in the literature of the time. Linguistically, the period is the evolution of Middle English as the inflectional system of Old English gradually weakened. While texts from the end of the Old English era were predominantly in the West Saxon dialect, those from the 12th century onward were written in various regional dialects, incorporating loan words from Scandinavian and French. The five main dialect areas distinguished were Northern, including Lowland Scots and Northern English, East Midlands and West Midlands corresponding to Mercian, Southeastern reflecting Kentish, and Southwestern similar to West Saxon. Over time, a standardized form of English emerged, largely influenced by the East Midland dialect due to the region's significance and the prominence of London as the capital. During this period, there is a notable abundance of diverse and noteworthy literary works. It is characterized by a sense of transition and experimentation, particularly evident among poets who are exploring new forms of expression. While French and Latin influences are significant, some poets continue the tradition from the Old English period. The oral tradition plays a crucial role in preserving poetic models, with notable examples like Lyman's Bread. The majority of works remain anonymous, with only a few authors known by name. Poetry dominates the literary landscape, serving various purposes such as recounting history, exploring divinity, and even delving into scientific subjects. Many authors are clerics, yet some romances indicate a broader popular appeal. Although prose works seem comparatively limited, Latin remains the language for official documents and scholarly pursuits. Much of the existing prose is homiletic, focusing on religious instruction. Works like the Catherine Group and Ancrine Rivel stand out, displaying unique styles and translations, though they may lack contemporary appeal. Middle English poetry can be grouped into three main categories based on their subjects. First, chronicles. There is a notable abundance of verse chronicles during this time. These chronicles are characterized by their incorporation of incredible stories, inventiveness, and often lively style. Though the poets considered their work as history, it aligns more closely with the genre of romance in modern times. Lyman's Bread, written around 1205 by Lyman, a monk from Arley Kings, Worcestershire. It spans approximately 16,000 long alliterative lines narrating the history of Britain from Brutus's arrival to Cadwallader's demise. Lyman heavily relies on Vass's Roman de Brett, which itself is a translation of Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britannia. The poem maintains archaic vocabulary, preserving Old English poetic traditions. Lyman employs epic formulas and similes alongside an alliterative meter with elements of assonance and rhyme. Robert of Gloucester, known for his rhyming chronicle, potentially authored by multiple individuals, including a monk named Robert from Gloucester in the late 13th century. He extensively draws from Geoffrey of Monmouth, William of Malmesbury, and other chroniclers. While not a skilled poet or scholar, Robert displays a genuine love for his country and portrays Arthur as a heroic figure. Robert Manning of Brearn, hailing from Bourne in Lincolnshire, Robert Manning completes his rhymed story of England around 1338. It covers events from Noah and the deluge to the death of Edward I, closely following Vass's Brut and Pierre de Langauff's Chronicle. Manning's work, written in Alexandrian couplets, lacks originality but is aimed at entertaining the unlearned audience. His other work, Handling Sin, begun in 1303, is a series of stories illustrating various sins based on William of Watlington's Manual des Pestes, intended for common people and written in four stress couplets. It showcases Manning's keen observations and impartial attitude. Religious and didactic poetry during this period can be categorized as follows. The Ormulum, authored by Orm around 1200, this lengthy work comprises around 10,000 lines, preserved in what is likely the author's own manuscript. It consists of religious homilies addressed to a fellow canon regular named Walter. The poem lacks literary quality and is characterized by a monotonous rhythm based on the Latin septenarius meter. Its unique feature is its complex system of spelling with frequent doubling of consonants. The Owl and the Nightingale, likely written in the early 13th century, this poem presents a lively argument between Nightingale, symbolizing joy, and the owl, symbolizing wisdom. It is prized for its narrative skill, characterization, and form, employing short rhyming couplets. Other religious poems, including the Orison to Our Lady, Genesis and Exodus, the Bestiary, the Moral Ode, the Proverbs of Alfred, and the Proverbs of Hendying, date back to the first half of the 13th century, with some possibly originating as early as 1150. They are notable for their metrical structure, with Moral Ode being particularly significant for its simplicity and dignity. The Cursor Mundi, composed in the early 14th century, this religious work covers stories from the Old and New Testaments and later religious history. It displays considerable skill in handling vast material and is known for its varied meter, primarily using short couplets. Richard Rolle of Hampole, a significant literary figure, Rolle was born around 1300 near Pickering in Yorkshire. He wrote various prose pieces and is best known for The Prick of Conscience, a long poem that describes the joys and sorrows of life. Despite doubts about its authorship, Rolle's work was immensely popular as indicated by the numerous surviving manuscripts. The meter of his work is four-stressed but irregular, reflecting its simplicity and appeal to a wide audience. The alliterative poems. In a unique manuscript housed in the British Museum, there are four exceptional poems written in a West Midland dialect: Pearl, Purity, Patience, and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. While the authorship remains uncertain, it is likely that the work of the same poet, possibly dated to the third quarter of the 14th century. Pearl stands out as the most remarkable of the three religious-themed poems. It is an allegorical work depicting the poet's vision in search of a lost precious pearl, which symbolizes spiritual enlightenment. The poem features deep sincerity, passion, and moving beauty, with a masterful handling of its complicated meter. Purity and Patience, though didactic in nature, also exhibit spirited realism and are notable for their exaltation. Each poem employs the long alliterative line with skill and mastery. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is regarded as the pinnacle of Middle English romances. It excels in plot construction, realism, characterization, descriptive prowess, and the use of the alliterative long line. The poet demonstrates exceptional skill, achieving moments of poetry that rival any other period. The romances. The romances of this period cover a wide array of subjects and employ both alliterative and rhyming meters. Romances centered on English history and heroes such as King Horn, Havelock the Dane, Guy of Warwick, and the Bevis of Hampton are prominent. They often draw upon contemporary history, as seen in Richard Coeur de Lion, and are collectively known as the Matter of England. Numerous romances revolve around King Arthur and his knights. Notable examples include Sir Tristram, Arthur and Merlin, Ewain and Gawain, and the renowned Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This group is termed the Matter of Britain. Romances related to classical themes such as the exploits of Alexander the Great and the siege of Troy fall under the matter of Rome the Great. Notable examples include King Alexander and the destruction of Troy. Charlemagne legends are represented in romances like Raw, Colzier, and Sir Fabras characterize the matter of France. Miscellaneous romances cover various themes and vary in quality. Examples include Amis and Amilum, William of Parlin and Floris, and Blockfleur. The Ancrine Rival is a significant early prose text, likely from the 12th century, is considered highly influential. It was written for three noble ladies who chose to become anchoresses and later revised for a larger community. The manual aims to guide them in their chosen way of life, emphasizing moderation. The author's broad humanity is a prominent feature, appealing to modern readers with its relatable elements. The prose style demonstrates continuity with earlier works like Wulfstan's and the authorized version of the Bible. An excerpt from the text provides insight into dealing with backbiters, illustrating how their behavior has not changed much over the centuries. The Asenbite of Invite, authored by Dan Michael of Northgate in 1340 and originating from Canterbury, is a translation of a French text, though a poor one. While it lacks literary significance, it holds importance linguistically, particularly as it is preserved in the author's own handwriting. It serves as a notable text for studying the southeastern and Kentish dialects. The development of literary forms. Meter. During this period, rhymed meters began to gain prominence, gradually replacing the alliterative lines of Old English poetry. However, both forms continued to coexist, especially evident in the 14th century alliterative revival. The development of meter was not linear, as signified by various poets' works. For instance, King Canute's song demonstrates early use of couplets with rhyming and assonance. Godric's fragments exhibit a syllabic pattern with consistent end-rhyme attempts. Additionally, experimentation with meter was common, notably seen in the use of stanza forms in romances influenced by French traditions. The lyric. The lyric form with its emotional appeal became popular during this period, influenced by French and Latin lyrics. Early English lyrics covered religious and secular themes. Examples include the Cuckoo Song exhibiting a regular structure. Medieval romances, while influenced by French traditions, developed their own distinct characteristics. These narratives often featured intricate plots, emphasizing incidents and martial exploits. The supernatural element was common, though sometimes portrayed in a humorous or exaggerated manner. Characterization varied, but the style was typically direct, with both artistic and less refined examples. Prose texts primarily served practical purposes. However, a clear development can be observed, as seen in works like the Ancrine Rival and the Catherine Group, which are now appreciated for their literary value. The poetry of this period witnessed significant stylistic growth, evident in the transition from works like Layamon's Brut to masterpieces like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. While some poets faced challenges with obscurity, others achieved lucidity and control in their style. Humor, pathos, and varying degrees of complexity characterize the poetry of this period.